almost every sport at Wayne State, you're kind of like going into the season, you're kind of like, all right, I think I know what they're going to be. Right. But soccer, we don't know. It's going to be brand new, and I think it's going to be great. First ever match on Thursday. Going to be a lot of firsts.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. Season 2 of Warrior Weekly. I'm Brady Beedon, Kevin Brechmacher to my left. And Breck, the summer is starting to come to a close. We're getting closer to Labor Day, which means fall sports are starting here very soon. This week here at Wayne State and throughout D2, fall sports are getting underway, and that means it's time for us to start to get back to work.
Brady, good to see you, by the way. It's been a while. Hopefully you had a good summer. My summer was okay, but I'm ready to get back to Warrior Athletics. You know, it's interesting. I was outside taking my trash out last night, and there was a little chill in the air. My allergies are popping up a little bit, so I know it's getting close to the fall, and it's time to get back at it. I can't wait. Some good storylines this fall for Wayne State Sports. We'll talk about a little bit today, preview and stuff. But it's been a long 2.5 months since we taped an episode, and I'm ready to get back at it.
And, you know, I think the first 3 teams we talk about are in 3 very different spots and 3 different storylines. You have volleyball that's trying to continue to ride on the success of the GLIAC championship in the tournament and you know, losing that heartbreaker in the national tournament. You have football that's starting a new era with a new coach and trying to build back to the glory and prominence it once had. And you have women's soccer that is starting with a blank slate, that has no history, that has nothing, and it could be in any different direction. So with those 3, let's start with volleyball, because they were pretty darn good last year. But, you know, the first thing that I think everyone around the GLIAC is going to say, well, you lost Kayla Giroux. And that's going to be the first thing that everyone's going to say is, what's life like after her? But there's still some pretty darn good players coming back on this Warrior volleyball team.
There are, and it's going to be really interesting to see. I think the Wayne State volleyball program ever since Tim Koth has been here, honestly, if you want me to be honest with you, that they've had a lot of success. But the last couple of years have been really good, kind of leading up into last year and winning 24 matches in a season. They tied for the regular season title, then went to Ferris State. We talked about that on the end of the year episode last year about one of the best moments of Wayne State athletics last school year was the volleyball team going basically on the road, obviously at Ferris State, and knocking them off in the GLIAC championship match. And then the heartbreaker in the NCAA tournament, you lose in 5 to Findlay in a match that you probably had a lot of opportunities to win. And I know Coach Koth and the returning players this year kind of have that monkey on their back a little bit that, man, we didn't get that NCAA tournament when we were so close, so let's go do it this year. And it's going to be tough to repeat the record they had last year with the 24 wins, but It's one of those things that I think the program, kind of like women's basketball has been the last couple of years, they're not rebuilding, they're reloading. And they have a lot of good transfers coming in, a lot of good returning players. Katarina Stout's one I'm going to keep my eye on all season. She was the freshman of the year last year. She stepped up in big ways last year in matches as a freshman. She has that year under her belt now, maybe more of a leadership role with Giroux and a lot of the seniors gone. But I can't wait to see it. And it all starts this weekend coming up at the Warrior Invitational. 9 matches total between all the teams there in the 2 days. Wayne State will play 4 matches. We'll have all those matches for you on the Warrior Sports Network, and I can't wait to see how they play, because I honestly, Brady, you go back to last year's Warrior Invitational when Wayne State won all 4 matches. I remember their last match of the weekend was a Saturday night match against Winona State. They were down 2-1. They were kind of, I forget, I don't want to be inaccurate here, but I forgot how far they fell behind in the 4th set. But they were behind by 5 or 6 points in the 4th set, already down 2-1. And Coach Koth called timeout. And after he called timeout, they played great the rest of the way, came back to win that 4th set, and then won 17-15 in the 5th. And the energy inside the Mathi that night was incredible. It was almost like a win that you kind of maybe take for granted later in the season, kind of springboard the rest of the season. I'm not saying they wouldn't have had a great year if they would have lost that match, but you had the momentum riding after going 4-0 in your own tournament, winning your own tournament, coming from behind to beat a pretty good team, and they just kind of carried that momentum all season long. So, yeah, you look at these matches. Yeah, first time I think ever Wayne State volleyball started at the Warrior Invitational August. Usually it's right before Labor Day weekend, usually early September, first, second week of September. But if you can have a good weekend this weekend coming up, that might springboard you, get some of these young players in some new roles, some confidence, and heading into the GLIAC part of the season.
Well, I think you drew the comparison to the women's basketball program, and I like that because Carrie Lore, there was she'd have some good years, she'd have some lean years, and then go back and forth, and she's been stacking good years on top of each other. I'm hoping that's what this is the start of for volleyball, where that they've had some better years than not, and up and down. But if you can start to stack them, and now you're going, okay, now the expectation is this, and then you get 2-3 years in, and then all the players know is, hey, we're supposed to be at the top of the GLIAC, we're supposed to go to the NCAA tournament, and very quickly you can build that culture of winning and excellence and going off of last year, because Coach Coth, I believe, was our first guest we had on here, part of it I asked him, like, hey, does it leave you yearning for a little more? Because, yes, last year was a tremendous year, but I guess to spin it to a positive way, it wasn't like, hey, they hit their ceiling, you knew where they were going. There's some meat left on that bone. And I think that the program knows that, and like you said, to take that next step, in a league that, again, the GLIAC and everything is very tough, to be near the top of the league in volleyball again, try to get that NCAA tournament win. Try to now repeat as champions. Because, hey, it's one thing when you're the hunter, but when you're the hunted, that's a completely different animal.
That's a great point, because even though Wayne State had maybe one of the best players in the country last year, Kayla Giroux, I still think Wayne State was the hunter last year, because you still had Ferris State, you still had Grand Valley, who I think, I'm not saying they didn't take Wayne State seriously, but the Warriors hadn't really achieved that same kind of level.
They had never really gotten there before.
They haven't gotten there before, but now they have. Now they go into Ferris State, you win the conference tournament, you beat them on their home court, and now you are the hunted, like you said, and now you have to kind of adjust to that, because every sport you're talking about, you mentioned the GLIAC, the top of the GLIAC, maybe the bottom of the GLIAC and some of the sports aren't as good, but the top 4 or 5 programs in any sport in the GLIAC are always very tough to beat. You've got Ferris State in volleyball, you've got Grand Valley, you've got Davenport, who's played a lot better lately, Parkside's on the way up, Northern Michigan played really well last year, they were the 3 seed in the tournament, Michigan Tech is always a team to reckon with as well. And I'm probably leaving somebody out, but those are the teams you're kind of looking at right on paper coming into the season to say, hey, those are the teams we've got to beat to get back to where we want to be. So there's no easy I shouldn't say there is no easy matches sometimes. I'm not going to mention names with some of the teams, but some of the teams you go into thinking, okay, if we play well, we should win. But those top 4, 5, 6 teams in the GLIAC, and Wayne State's one of them, going to be tough to handle. So it should be an interesting volleyball season. I can't wait to get it started. And again, it's going to be tough to repeat what they did last year, but just if you don't have the same record, you get yourself in the tournament, now you have some of that experience from last year and that heartbreak, maybe you use that as motivation to go a little farther this year.
I'll tell you this, if Wayne State volleyball is going to have similar success to last year, there's going to be a name or two that right now we haven't talked much about, that maybe people isn't on anyone's radar, but is developed in the offseason and will have to step up into one of these roles. And it might not even be a superstar role, just, hey, a very good role player that does their job well, that didn't play last year or wasn't here last year. That's what it's going to take to repeat, because it is the elephant in the room. There are some big shoes to fill, not just with Kayla Giroux, but that whole group of seniors. There's some big shoes to fill, but hopefully a lot of them are up to the task.
Yeah, and that's what this Warrior Invitational is really good for, because you have 4 matches in 2 days you're playing. You can't just play the same lineup the entire time because of physical fatigue. You're early in the season, so you're probably not in the best you're not in game shape yet. You know that from playing football. You're not really in your game shape until you play a couple games, because you got to get used to that physicality of being in a match. So you're going to have players step up, and I'll go back to Stout when I talked about her being one of the leaders this year, freshman of the year last year. People knew who she was, but she was a true freshman. She comes in there and has a great Warrior Invitational and kind of announces herself as like, hey, I'm going to be somebody you're going to have to hit around, because I'm going to be blocking at the net. Her blocking was outstanding last year in the Warrior Invite. It was one of the reasons they came back to beat Winona State in that last match to win the tournament. And you're right. Somebody's going to step up, and Coach Koth is going to kind of figure out what combinations are going to work. You would love to win, obviously, every time you're out there. But I think more importantly for this year, with all the players they have to replace, find the combinations that are going to work heading into the league season, so you're clicking at all cylinders, and you know what combination is going to work at certain points in the match when you get to play the GLIAC matches.
All right, let's go to football. So, again, a very different point than volleyball. Hey, be honest. 0-11 is about as low as you can get. I said it on the last game. That's a scarlet letter this program's going to have to wear forever. There's no getting around that. However, it's a lot of changes has happened since that game up in Marquette to end the season last year. Obviously, Coach Isaac now the head coach. He's brought in his staff. The last we really talked about this was after spring ball. And, I said, there were some things I liked. There were, some promising things. But it's a spring ball game, a scrimmage, essentially. You can't tell a lot. The one thing I did say is they need about 25 people, and a lot of them need to be large humans. They have brought in a lot of people, and a lot of them are large humans. Now, I think they started camp with about 120-ish players. Maybe not exactly, but in that ballpark. I will just tell you that will be about 100 to 105 just through normal attrition that any program would have. So you're going to have a full locker room there, which is, that was step number one, because this roster was not looking like it would have 100 to 105 kids on it when we last talked. So they've gotten players in. Now, there's going to be a wide variety of players. I mean, you have JUCOs, you have transfers, you have new freshmen. One thing I will say that I like about this program, it has been probably a handful of years since I have seen this early of a recruiting trail, being as strong on the recruiting trail. I've already seen, a handful of kids announce their verbal commitments to Wayne State. That hadn't been happening in recent years. So that is another positive. But as for getting ready for this season, Breck, I kind of told you during spring ball. I don't know. Coach Isaac has said the right things. I think a lot of the other coaches in the position previews have said the right things. But that, a lot of coaches can say the right things. We don't know if it translates on the field. And we'll find out, on that Thursday against Northwood. All that to say, it's a big kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's just a big question mark, I think, is what you want to say about the Wayne State football program as a whole. But I will say, you mentioned it, I was going to talk about it. It's so funny because I scroll through my social media almost every day over the last 4 or 5 weeks. There's been an update with 2 or 3 more players who have signed and are coming to play at Wayne State. So to your point, first thing I want to say, I want to give the coaching staff a bunch of credit for trying to rebuild this roster. Now,
and this is a coaching staff that one concern, and I think it was a valid concern a lot of alumni had, was they're not from here. How are you going to build the inroads in the Michigan schools? Because obviously Michigan high school football has shown that they can produce GLIAC talent and top-end GLIAC talent. So they've done it, and almost all these kids that we've seen have been from the state of Michigan. So they've done a good job ingratiating themselves to a community and schools that maybe they weren't quite familiar with 6 months ago.
I'm paraphrasing because I don't know verbatim the exact thing that Coach Isaac said to you the first time you interviewed him at the basketball game last February, but he basically said, one of my first goals is I want to make inroads in the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan and try to keep those players here. And again, will these players pan out? We don't know. We won't know until we see them on the field. We don't know until they start playing games. But just the fact that he's bringing these kids in, there are a lot of Michigan kids, a lot of local kids, I think is a step in the right direction, and they're putting the work in. And I think that's the biggest thing. You got to put if you're going to succeed, I don't care what sport you're talking about. I don't care what job you're talking about. If you don't put the work in, you're not going to succeed. And the one thing you can say, again, we don't know if they'll translate to wins. We don't know how competitive they'll be, especially against some of the better teams that they're going to play this year. And trust me, we'll talk about this more next week on the episode, the game against Northwood. But they start out with a pretty darn good football team in Northwood. But we don't know if it's going to translate to wins, but they're putting the work in. And that's all you can do at this point because, like you said, coming off an 0-11 season where, let's be honest, a lot of the games last year, they were not competitive in at all.
There was one game where it was up in the air in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the Finley game, and
that's the second game of the season.
Second game of the season. Finley.
I guess maybe Quincy as well, if you want to be. Okay. But point being, a lot of the fourth quarters were, when is this game getting over with?
Yeah. So again, you don't know how it's going to translate, but again, the first thing you have to do is put the work in. And we cannot sit here and say that Coach Isaac and his staff have not put the work in. They've done what they've needed to do to get kids in here. And I'll tell you what, I've driven by going to the Tiger baseball games a couple times in the last couple of weeks, driving by this morning, coming to tape this podcast. They're out practicing. They're out working hard, working at night, working in the morning. So they're getting ready for the season, and I can't wait for next week's game against Northwood just to see how it translates on the field. Again, I don't think you can make a complete judgment on this coaching staff or this team off of one game next week. But it's going to be just interesting to see how they gel together, again, come together as a team and continue to get better as the season goes on. You've got some opportunities. Again, we'll talk about this more next week. Opportunities early against some teams that maybe you can be competitive against. And then, of course, once you get in a league play, you want to be competitive in all those games. But you want to start playing good football when you get to October.
Well, we can kind of dabble a little bit into the schedule because I think, there's games, you kind of break it down, right? And nowadays, the turnover and the volatility but from year to year is so great that, we'll use Coach Winters as an example when he got here. It took him, his third year, he had a nice year, then his fourth year was down a little, but you saw the very linear progression of him getting it to where it was around the turn of the 2010s and getting to that national championship team. But nowadays, teams can rise and fall really quickly. Like, let's look at Saginaw Valley. They had a heck of a quarterback there last year. And even 10 years ago, you're going, oh my God, how long do we have to deal with this guy? All right, well, now Mason McKenzie's at Boston College, and we don't have to worry about him.
Yeah.
And they're going through a coaching staff change, and there's a lot of different things. Like teams can, might not have that same. Well, they were good last year, so they're going to be good this year. So there's opportunities. Breck, when I look at it, I think 4 games that I think you can really start to judge it on. The Quincy game on the road, I think, is one you can judge it on. Listen, I'll just put this out there. It's been tough losing to La Crosse twice in the last 4 years. Yeah, they're a good D3 program, but they're still a D3 program. That is something that shouldn't happen.
And personally, we got heckled walking in there last
We
year.
did.
We were going to practice.
We did.
Us two and Jeff Weiss were walking in. We got heckled by their tailgate.
Yeah.
So let's get them back.
And by the way, their coach, they're going through a coaching change. Their coach is up at Northern Michigan. Northern Michigan is a game, listen, it should never be like that. A program that was going through what they should, that was one of the toughest games I've ever had to do. You have those 3, and then I'm missing the other one I always talk about. Yeah, the Roosevelt game, which again, Roosevelt was struggling, and they took it to Wayne State last year. Those are 4 games that, if you want to say right away market improvement, you go 3-1 in those, you go 4-0 in those games. Automatically, it's a successful season from my perspective, right?
Yeah, and you've got three of those 4 at home. Too.
Yes,
the only one on the road is Quincy. That's a long trip. You'll find that out.
I've gone there
in September. You've been there before. I have as well for basketball. But yeah, but again, you don't want to shortchange the chances in other games as well. No, and before you look at right off.
Yeah,
okay,
these are
the games we can make some.
Now you have the Saginaw Valleys, the Davenports, even the Northwoods. Listen, I might get on my GLIAC soapbox a little bit, but. Northwood made the playoffs, and it was great for them. I love my Northwood friends. Shout out Jake Riepma. I like them.
Shout out Matt Bellinger,
right?
Assistant basketball coach there.
But you got invited to the dance, and then you got wedgied and thrown in a locker by Ferris State.
So basically, there's a difference between making the playoffs out of the GLIAC and making the playoffs out of the Junior.
Correct.
I'm not trying.
Yes.
I'm not trying to imply.
No, that is what I'm saying is, the road's a little tougher through the GLIAC. And yes, Northwood's a playoff team, but like you said, it's different than when Davenport was a playoff team. If Tech or Saginaw Valley are playoff teams. It doesn't carry. It carries a little more cachet coming from that. Not to say Northwood's been a heck of a program. The turnaround they've had. They had a heck of a hire a few years ago, and Northwood was a program that a lot of teams went, "Hey, that's a game we need to win." Yep. And now they're in the playoffs. So I'm not discounting that at all. It's been an incredible, story there. But I'm not going to go into that game going, "Oh my God!" There's, we need every bounce right here. Now, Northwood could come in and take care of business, but it's not going to give the same aura as maybe a Grand Valley or a Ferris or even a team like Michigan Tech this year who's going to be pretty darn good.
They picked third in the preseason poll, yeah.
Davenport is starting to stack good seasons on top of each other. But that's another game that's a measuring stick with them. And with Coach Isaac, the new offense, throwing everything around. Listen, the one thing I like, though, he has an identity, and he's going to stick to it, and he has the plan, right? Is it the traditional, what we got used to with Wayne State playing that pro-style offense for so long and having the mauling offensive line that when that offensive line was great, usually there's a pretty good correlation between offensive line talent and team success at Wayne State. No, it might not be that same style, but he has a plan. He has an idea on how he wants to get there. Now we'll see what that roadmap looks like.
You bring up a great point with a plan. I was going to mention this too. That I think the biggest thing I want to see from Coach Isaac is I want there to be an identity with this Wayne State team. I want there to be a plan. Because watching Wayne State football the last couple of years, you didn't know really what they wanted to be. Did they want to be a team that gambles a lot and goes for it on fourth down?
Right.
Or are they going to be a team that punts on 4th and 6 inches?
Right.
Are they going to be a team that when they have the ball at the 2-yard line, 4th and goal, are they going to go for a touchdown? Or are they going to kick a field goal? Because it changed from game to game. It changed from possession to possession. There was never, I think that was part of the problem. There was never an identity with this team. Like, what are we going to be? What are we going to be? So I don't really care what Wayne State wants to be. Let's just stick with that and be that. If we're going to be a Dan Campbell type team and, hey, we're going to be Dan Gamble, we're going to roll the dice every fourth down and go for it, great.
Yeah.
Then you have to live with the consequences, but let's do it. I'll tell you what, I'm not a Lions fan because everybody knows I'm from Ohio originally, but I give him credit because he has a plan, and that's the way he coaches. Hey, if you don't make it, that's on me. We went for it.
If you know, hey, we're going to go out there, we're going to throw it 50 times a game, then you can mentally prepare that. Hey, you're not looking at the sideline going, oh, what are we doing? Are we going to do it? Now half the guys are going, oh man, why are we doing this? Or you just know. Or hey, it's third down, we got to get it, otherwise team's coming out.
Or in fourth and 1 from the opposition 45, you know what? We're not going to go for it. We're going to be a team that's going to play field position. We're going to punt the football. We're going to pin the other team deep and let our defense cook. Pick a lane. And that was my biggest problem last year and the last few years with Wayne State football was it just from game to game and even in game, there was never consistency with what we wanted to be, whether it was we wanted to throw the ball out, we wanted to run the ball out, we were going for it on fourth down, or we were kicking field goals, we were punting, or what were we doing? There was just never a consistency with that. So that's the one thing I want to see. And I have faith in this coaching staff that again, from everything you've said and from my interactions with Coach Isaac, that they want to play a certain way and they're going to play that way. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least there's going to be an identity with this Wayne State football team, and I think that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and the one thing I liked is when I talked to all the coaches, you heard a lot of the same things, and that's what you get from successful programs, right? Whether you talk to the head coach, the newest GA, the senior captain, or the freshman that's been here for 3 weeks, if they're all parroting the same message, then that tells me everyone's pulling in the same direction, or at least understands the direction you're going, and that is, I think, been a positive. However, like I'll say, give Coach Isaac the chance to show what it's going to be like on the field. And, like you said, Northwood is not a referendum game in game one. There's going to be some good, there's going to be some bad, but let's see what it is on the field. Because again, you go out there's been coaches that have said everything right, and then the lights come on and they shrivel. There have been coaches that, are a little rough around the edges. Everyone thought Kirk Signetti was on something when he showed up at Indiana, and
he
now,
might be still on something, but
but you know what? He wins. Yeah. So you win, you can say whatever you want when you win. Yeah, so all that to be said, give him a chance. They're trying to do it the right way. Still don't know as of right now if he can coach in a game. I sure as heck hope he can, and I'm going to be up in that booth rooting like hell that they're going to, get Wayne State back to where it can be, because that's the one last thing I'll leave it on is, this is a program that has had a Harlan Hill winner, has put players into the NFL, has played for a national title in recent history, has, gone toe-to-toe with Grand Valley and Ferris, and can be a premier program. So yes, there's a long way to get there, but for the long-term expectations are anything less than this needs to be a program that year in and year out has a shot at the playoff, then we need to get, then you need to realign yourself, because that is the ceiling of this program, and I will not let anyone tell me any differently.
Well, I'm invested in this because this is my 12th year at Wayne State broadcasting sports. You're obviously invested in this because the last time you walked off the football field, you were carrying those shoes at Green Valley. So and that you guys were playing just as well as anybody in the entire country. Still a shame you didn't get in the playoffs that year, because I think you could have gone a long way. But you know firsthand that this is a program that can win. And they've had success these last 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
it's been rough since COVID, but hey, it's time to turn it around. And I think everything Coach Isaac is doing is working in the right direction to making that happen. Will it happen this year? We don't know. We'll get more of the nuts and bolts of the game against Northwood next week on the broadcast and what we expect and how you beat them and all that stuff. But, again, is it going to happen week one? We don't know.
It'd be pretty darn cool if they show up with a win.
Will it happen by week 7? We don't know. Will it happen by the end of the year? We don't know. But again, we keep talking about and stressing that you have to be patient with the new coaching staff. They're doing everything the right way. They're getting kids in here that want to play for Wayne State, and we'll see what happens. And this is a proud program. You know that for a fact. You were on the field, like I said, walking off with the shoes at Grand Valley. The only time we beat them since 1984 was your senior year.
Yeah.
And let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Yeah, that is the ceiling. Yeah. So from that to a team that we
wait for this. Yeah.
I don't want to say no expectations, but women's soccer is a brand new program. Love that there's another team here on campus, but there's nothing to go off of. The one thing I will say, kind of like football, is 10 years ago, if you started a new program, you kind of knew you were going to take some lumps. I'm not saying you're set up for immediate success this year, but what I will say is there are more tools to get a team better quicker, and you don't have to go, okay, well, let's get through the first 2 seasons, and then year 3 we can compete. I'll be honest, I've not followed GLIAC women's soccer because I haven't had a reason to.
No, we haven't had a reason to, no.
So I have not been keeping close tabs on it, other than seeing who wins the tournament when the GLIAC tweets out the bracket at the end of it.
Guess who's been the best program in the GLIAC for women's soccer?
I guess Graham.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Shocker.
Good guess, yeah.
But point being, I don't know. And, maybe it is a slow start year one. I mean, Coach came on here and said, he goes, we could, not win a game. We could go and make a run in the playoffs and be a national title contender. He goes, I don't know. But he's brought a bunch of girls in here that, I hope are talented. Again, I wish I could tell you more, but you're basically handing me a blank piece of paper and saying, tell me about this. I don't know.
I can't wait, because it's almost like having a new kid, right? From the get go, you get to raise them up. You get to be with them from the beginning, and I can't wait. First match coming up this Thursday at Northwood, and then a week from. Or the Sunday coming up at Detroit Mercy, and then the first home match a week from Friday against Ohio Dominican on the 4th of September. I can't wait. The new field looks, the new pitch, I should say. I've been working on my soccer.
You are going to be doing the soccer broadcast.
All the matches, watching the World Cup all summer.
Broadcasts are going to be on what, Flow and
Warrior Sports Network. Yeah, I can't wait. The pitch looks great. They have a new scoreboard out there. There's bleachers out there now. Still working on a press box, according to Jeff Weiss. We'll see if that happens or not. But I can't wait, because, like you said, if you were starting a new program 10, even 5 years ago at this point, it might be tough because you're probably mostly freshmen or JUCO transfers. But you look at their roster, and I can't go individual by individual. That would take too long. But half the roster are D1 transfers. And again, are these going to be the best soccer players in the country coming to Wayne State? We don't know. You don't know if they're going to be or not. But they all were part of D1. Half of them, almost half of them, if not more than half of them, were part of D1 programs. So right off the bat there, you're like, all right, you've got experience playing at the D1 level, experience being in a program in D1. So obviously somebody thought highly of you when you were in high school to recruit you to D1. So there's some good players coming in. I can't wait to see how they mesh. Now, again, that's going to be the key. Will they mesh together as a team? Do they have the right parts in the right spots from those D1 schools, from the high school ranks, from other transfers coming in from other D2 schools that, will mesh together and play well? We don't know. But right off the bat, you've got talent. You've got talent up and down the roster. You've got 3 or 4 goalkeepers on the roster to pick from. It's just I can't wait to see them play. I can't wait to see how it goes. And again, it might not look the best early in the season because again you're having all these players meshed together. But
you also don't, and that's the thing. Like, okay, volleyball, I kind of have my idea internally of what I'd say this was a successful season. Football, I have my own idea of what would be a successful season. I don't even, I wish I could sit here and say, if they win X amount of games, that's a successful. Or if they finish above 500, or if they win a GLIAC. I don't know what the proper expectation is. We're all going to learn together with this soccer team. But I know it's cool that we have another team on campus. It's been a while since Wayne State had added another program. But, we'll see. And it's just part of the continual growth of this athletic department.
Yeah, it just continues to expand. A lot of we mentioned the soccer pitch being finished and the scoreboard up out there. They're redoing the swimming pool inside the Math Eye. They're redoing a lot of facilities around campus, but soccer being the big one. But yeah, I just it's going to be so fun to see because I think you bring up a great point. Almost every sport at Wayne State, you're kind of going into the season, you're kind of all right, I think I know what they're going to be.
Right.
I mean, we're obviously not going to talk about basketball yet because that's still a few months off, but I kind of know kind of what to expect at least with both basketball teams, what to expect from the baseball team in the spring, softball team, football team, like you said, volleyball team for sure, but soccer, we don't know. I mean, I hate to say that on a podcast. We don't know how it's going to go because I don't think the coaching staff per se knows exactly what to expect until they actually go out there and start playing some matches. But it's going to be brand new, and I think it's going to be great. First ever match on Thursday. First ever home match a week from Friday. First ever league match coming up in a couple weeks, and going to be a lot of firsts, so a lot of milestones, and we'll see how they play. And I can't wait to call it because it's going to be fun. Doing soccer by yourself is always a good time, Brady.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that right now. It's always a good time. Got to find some things to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot of goals scored usually, but I can't wait. It should be a lot.
At least you'll have at least you have 2 games of something to draw off of the first one.
For sure, yeah.
So, we'll figure that out. But, the other fall sports, golf, it's kind of their exhibition season. Mm-hmm. So everything ramps up for the spring. Cross country getting started in the fall as well. But, yeah, those are the big ones that we're going to dive into, and like you said, next time we talk, we're going to have a pretty good sample size for volleyball. We're going to at least see what soccer looks like.
Soccer, yeah.
We're going to dive into the nuts and bolts of Northwood and what that's going to be like, because that's see how the Coach Isaac era starts.
Hey, we'll be up in the booth that first night calling it. Sean has other obligations that night, so it's going to be you and me on the
Thursday night for the
Thursday night football against Northwood. Can't wait! And what a week! What a 7-day stretch! You got the Warrior the first ever soccer match coming up on Thursday. Or I should say 8-day stretch. First ever soccer match Thursday. You have the Warrior Invitational here at home Friday, Saturday. So come on out and support the Warriors Friday and Saturday. I think the first match Friday is 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then they play at 7 o'clock both Friday night and Saturday. I think first match Saturday is at 1 and then 7 o'clock. So you have the Warrior Invitational all weekend, then the women's soccer team at Detroit Mercy. Short commute for the Wayne State community there on Sunday. And then the next week, we've got football Thursday night, and then soccer on Friday, first home match in school history. So what an 8-day stretch.
Pretty good
athletics.
Pretty good start for the school year.
Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait to be back in the studio.
Yeah, we're going to be back here
with you, Brady.
Back here every week. It might move around. The release date might move around a little bit, especially in the winter because of the GLIAC. We're not going to get into that. But anyway, it's good to be back. Can't wait to have some actual games and action to talk about. And like you said, that week-plus stretch is going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Can't wait. Go Warriors, like we always say, and we'll bring all the action to you, whether it's on the podcast or whether it's on the Warrior Sports Network. We'll have it for you, and we'll cover it from first kick. I guess I should say first kick next Thursday to the last pitch thrown in the spring.
All right, for Breck, it's excited. Season 2 of Warrior Weekly is here. For Kevin Brechmacher, I'm Brady Beedon. We'll talk to you next week.